To center is the loneliest fire of all. You'll know you have arrived when nothing else will burn. At first, this sounds rather somber. But from Moses to Buddha to Jesus, the deepest among us have all shown that living is a process of constantly paring down until we carry only what is essential. It is the same in the human journey as in the natural world. As the center grows stronger, what once was protective turns into a covering, like tree bark or snakeskin that is now in the way, and sooner or later, we as spirits growing in bodies are faced with burning old skins, like rags on sticks, to light our way as we move deeper and deeper into the inner world, where the forces of God make us one. When faced with the need to keep going inward, we are confronted with a very difficult kind of life choice. Like carving up your grandmother's table for firewood to keep your loved ones warm, or leaving a job that has been safe and fulfilling in order to feel vital again, or burning an old familiar sense of self because it's gotten so thick you can't feel the rain. In truth, always needing to stay immediate by removing what is no longer real is the working inner definition of sacrifice. Giving up with reverence and compassion what no longer works in order to stay close to what is sacred. Ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Koppel. And those amazing words by Mark Nepo in the Book of Awakening, and that amazing song, Kai Schumacher, called A New Era. So when I told people I was going to do a talk on death, a lot of people said this, "Oh." And other people said, "Eeh." And I was like, no, you don't understand. Death is a vital part of life. In fact, death makes room for life. And I want to take us through a really important kind of death, a mandatory death, a death that has the capacity to free us, to be who we want, to live how we want, to love who we want. And that is this: conceptual death. It is the death of belief systems that were planted in us, that we then chose consciously or subconsciously to live by, that inhibit, limit, and contain us, and the death of which can free us. So I want to ask us a series of questions. How do you imagine the unimaginable? How do you operate in the realm of ideas that are so fresh they have never seen the light of day? How do you break open the artistic heart? How do you allow that which is deep within you to come unencumbered out into the world? How do you set yourself free? Well, there's a really important question that underpins this. What must die in you so that you may live? Think about that. What must die in you so that you may be free to live how you want, to love who you want? I get it, it's Friday at 9 a.m. It's kind of heavy, but it's so important. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sohail Coelho, and I am an artist and a sage and a healer and a teacher. I'm an adventurer and an explorer. I am vulnerable and afraid. I am powerful and creative. I am limited and limitless. And I am everything that is, was, and will ever be. And as I stand in front of you right now, this is the truest, freest, most loving I have ever been. And it feels fucking great. I work at Instrument, a digital brand and product innovation studio here in Portland, and I lead a discipline that's called human development. It's all about helping people grow, but both in work and in life. We try to help people see, is your life a reflection of who you are? Are you inspired by the life that you're living? Are you evolving your concept of who you are? And at work, do you see a path forward? Are you inspired by the work that you're doing? Are you able to make the work meaningful to you? And you may be asking, well, why does work care about life? Well, it's based on this: the belief that we have a central operating system, a common OS, and that common OS runs the work program and the life program. And the limitations that we have in life are on how big we can be, how powerful we can be, how creative we can be, the possibilities that you see in life. The limitations that you have in life are the same limitations you bring to work. Your ability to problem solve, to think creatively, to imagine the unimaginable, to invent, to reinvent. So to be able to break that whole thing wide open, we have to look at the whole system. We have to look at the whole human. Imagine a child. When we're young, we operate in this space of limitless potential where anything is possible. You ask a child, to imagine a four-headed, fluffy-tailed smoke monster with polka dots, and the child is like, I got you. Now what? See, the child operates in the space of limitless potential. But then, reality sets in. Fears, traumas, limitations. That one mistake I made 5 years ago, remember that one time, that one thing? That then screws with me for my rest of my life. And all of a sudden, with all of those things, my OS, my operating system starts to pull in closer and closer and closer until I start to feel suffocated by the choices that I have, by the possibility of my life. And this is fertile ground for addiction, for disease, for just being overall not so happy. There's a way out. To return to your factory settings, your original state, our original state. Our original state is expansive, is limitless. To get back there, these belief systems have to die. So you see, conceptual deaths, they unbind potential. They unravel us. But here's what's interesting about potential. Potential has to be harvested in seasons. So there are seasons to go wide, try new things, meet new people, expand your operating system, expand your scope of what you think is possible in life. And once you harvest it and you make this life, you have an OS that feels really big, then you have to go integrate it. You have to go live it. You gotta take that show on the road. And these are the cycles of gathering and integrating, gathering and integrating. They are the cycles of what have played out in my life and what I'm going to talk you through. So I've had 4 major conceptual deaths in my life. The age of 8, 28, 35, and right now, I'm on the edge of another one. It's almost too soon to give it words, but hey, you guys are all here, and I figure I should probably try. So I will. I was born in India, in a town called Bandra, a seaside suburb of Bombay, or Mumbai as it's known. And when I was 8, my family decided to leave India to come to the US. We moved to New Jersey, and in order to be close to New York City. When we left, it was the first conceptual death, and it was this: that belonging equals sameness. When I was in India, I could look around at the people around me, and I saw my skin color reflected, and my hair color reflected, the similar facial features and languages. And so, of course, if we look the same, then we belong to each other, right? But then when we left and we came to the US, all of a sudden, I was surrounded by a whole different color. And I was like, wait, do I belong? I remember the first day of 4th grade, and I had only been in the country for a few months. And I remember standing at the bus stop to go to school. And I remember standing there, chubby little Indian boy, and I remember the bus pulling up. I remember looking up and the door opening, and me walking those big steps up, and then as soon as I got up, tucking as quick as possible into a seat. Oh God, I hope no one sees me. Did someone see me? I hope no one sees me. Did someone see me? And I remember just sitting still, barely breathing. I remember the bus door closing, it's starting to move. And I just sat there. And after a few seconds or minutes, I remember turning to start to look. And I turned all the way to the back of the bus. And in the back of the bus were all these white kids. They were happy and they were excited and they were cheerful and excited to talk to each other. They had a sense of belonging. And I remember turning back around and sinking a little bit deeper. And two beliefs were planted in me that day. One, that I will never belong because I don't look like that. And two, that I will never resemble that concept of beauty because I don't have the same skin color. And I lived with those for a really, really long time. After the death, there is the liminal phase. It's the space in between two trapezes. You've let go of one, but the new belief system that's going to expand you dramatically is yet to show up. Super uncomfortable. And so here in this phase, you're just like, okay, anything, give me anything, let me hold on to anything. So I tried on a few. Belonging equals physicality. Well, if I dress like you and look like you, and maybe if I'm skinny like you, then maybe we can belong to each other? Or belonging equals sexuality. Well, if I'm gay and you're gay, then clearly we belong to each other, right? Right? And I tried those on for a while. And I mean a while, I mean years. See how they felt. And they didn't feel that great. Because I realized they were different flavors of the same thing, which was belonging equals sameness. Didn't expand me, limited me. It gave me a blueprint of how not to be me. And so I lived in this state for a long time. I'm talking like 30 years or so. Until I finally connected to something that set me free dramatically. And it's this. Belonging equals uniqueness. Imagine an ecosystem. A healthy ecosystem has rich biodiversity. And in that biodiversity, every element, every component in that biodiversity must honor its intrinsic nature, perform the function that it's meant to, that is a reflection of its nature. In order for that whole biodiversity to be healthy, that's what has to happen. And so I started to realize that I actually had to honor my nature, understand who I was intrinsically, and then live it. And in that, maybe this ecosystem has a chance to survive by me being me. And you know what I need? I need you to be you for this whole experiment to work. Belonging equals uniqueness. After this, I went to college in Maine, and I moved to New York City, got a job in marketing. And up until I was 28, I was doing pretty well. But then what I started to realize was that I had always been a really, really good kid. I got the good grades. I went to a good school. I got a good job. I worked really, really, really hard. And there's nothing wrong with any of this. This is all great. But the point is that I wasn't actually free to make my own choices. I was scared to death to make my own choices. I was so busy being compliant by the rules of the game. I had no freedom. And after 7 years of working in the city, the ripe old age of 28, I had basically burnt out. My OS had pulled so far in that I was suffocated by it. And I was like, I can't live like this anymore. And so I asked for a leave of absence, and I committed to traveling around South America for 6 months. And when I left, when I hopped out of that stream, a couple of things started to die. First, that life was all about the expected choices, that I was bound by them, that I had to do them. In fact, the rules of the game were fixed. But when I left and I did the unexpected, all of a sudden I was like, wait, I feel really alive. And the rules of the game, I just did something that was not allowed in the rules of the game. And you know what? Like the sun still arose, birds still flew. Life went on. And I was like, wait, maybe the rules of the game aren't fixed. And lastly, to leap, I always thought was so unsafe. To risk, to leap, to try, unsafe, don't do it, don't do it. But here I did it. And I was traveling around South America, and all of a sudden, everywhere I went, I felt supported. And I felt loved. And I was like, wait, life can actually take care of you? What? You can trust life? What? These belief systems started to die. I went to Venezuela and Brazil. I was a beach bum in Colombia. And what was amazing about being in Colombia was that I wasn't actually trying to be obedient or defiant. I was in the neutral space in between the two, the space of pure potential. I was just being me. And after a couple months there, I realized I wanted to be purposeful in this world. And so I found an outreach foundation in Ecuador. And I moved to Ecuador, to the cloud forests. Lived in a hut at the foothills of the Andes, no electricity or running water. And I would walk a mile to the closest village where I would teach English in the day. And I worked with a group of artisans in the afternoons, and they used to make necklaces out of seeds and shells, and I would help them organize. And as much as I helped them with business, they taught me about community, about intimacy that had no anchoring or grounding in a common ancestry, but simply that we were humans, sharing an experience, sharing a moment. And in that, we could love each other, take care of each other. I spent Christmas with them and New Year's with them. And I could feel as I was there, my entire OS starting to open, to expand. I had made all of my own choices. I learned how to trust myself, how to trust life. And I started to realize that life could be about my choices as much as it was about the expected ones. And that the rules of the game were pliable. They were bendable. And the beauty about this is that once you believe that the rules of the game can change, the rules of the game change. And then you get to play by your own rules. You get to live life on your own terms. And that to leap, to risk, to try, allowed you to move towards life that felt meaningful. You see, I didn't wake up when I was born and I knew exactly what I had to do in order to make life meaningful. Some people know that. They know the craft, they know the skill, they know the community. It's dialed, they know it. I didn't. I had to go figure it out. And that means I had to try a bunch of things. And in the movement towards meaning, I found meaning. It is in the movement towards meaning we can find meaning. After this expansive state, I realized that life were about conscious choices, the expected ones and my own, but me choosing consciously based on what I wanted. And the concept of true leaps is I'm going to leap and risk and experiment, but it's true to me, to what inspires me, what makes me feel alive. And that, the combination of the two, created a recipe to make life meaningful. Because I need that. I need life to feel meaningful, to feel purposeful. And I took all of this and I moved back to New York. And I was operating at a whole nother level. I got a new job. I was working at American Express. I had an amazing team, amazing group of people. And in this job, I was able to make new choices. I was able to experiment, to risk, to take conceptual risks in business. I was dramatically more effective, and I learned about community, around how you can reserve intimacy for one person, the one, or you can foster intimacy with a lot of different people, and then you web yourself to all of them. And then you don't put as much pressure on the one to give you everything. A system of intimacy, of connection, and I felt held up by it. And I felt loved within it. And I was loving to it. And I did that for 7 years. And for 5 of those years, it's pretty good. I was digging it. I moved from the West Village in New York. I moved to Brooklyn. I was making a lot of money. Got myself a beautiful apartment. I had a 300 square foot terrace, which any of you who've been to New York know how hard it is to get a 300 square foot terrace. It's all your own. Was dating a dude who I thought was the hottest shit in the entire world. Kind of had it all. And for 5 years, felt good. And then all of a sudden, something started to corrode on the inside. All of a sudden, life started to feel a little empty, a little hollow. And I couldn't understand it. It made no sense. I was following the formula. I had a good job, I had community, I had love, I had money, I had stuff. I had it all. What the fuck? I had been smoking cigarettes at that point, so I would smoke a little more. I had been drinking, I'd just drink a little more. The drugs that used to be recreational started to become habitual. I didn't want to feel. A typical Friday night, come home from work, I'd call my dealer. He'd pull up to the front of my apartment. I'd come down. I'd get in his car. We'd drive around the block. He'd talk to me about his life, how he really wanted to make it better, how he really wanted a place of his own, but the absence of a steady paycheck meant he couldn't actually get an apartment. How he just really wanted to try to make life better. And I felt so guilty by having all of this stuff, and I couldn't appreciate any of it. And I was dying on the inside. And he would give me 3 bags of Coke and drop me off at my apartment. And I'd go back upstairs. I'd look at my terrace and look at my stuff and pour myself a big glass of wine or whiskey or beer or all of it. And I'd go into the cabinet and pull out a black ceramic plate, a sushi plate with a brown bamboo trim around it. And I would open a bag of Coke and pour it out. I'd go into my wallet, grab my Yushi Sushi frequent eater card, and make some lines, 3 long, fat lines. Mind you, I didn't realize that my Coke cutting card was a sushi card, and that my Coke plate was a sushi plate until literally years later. But then, when those were around, I had other things on my mind. And I would do 3 big, fat lines so that I didn't have to feel that my life was falling apart on the inside. That I had no real sense of self, of worth. And that was hard. I did that for a series of years. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I asked American Express for a leave of absence. I eventually quit. I put my stuff in storage, ended the relationship, got rid of the apartment, booked a one-way ticket to Brazil. And what I said was, what I was going to do was leave this business guy, the overachiever, the perfectionist, the gotta achieve, gotta prove. I get who that guy is. Cool, we get him. We're gonna leave him in New York. And what if we travel in a way that we allow land and people and connection to show us to us? What if we start to expand our concept of who we are? And so I went. And when I left, a couple of things started to die. First is the concept that fulfillment was all about the outer world, because I had the outer world dialed. And it wasn't fulfilling. That worth was all about work and achievement, that I had to prove my worth every single day through the achievements that I had made. And when I left and decided not to work, the concept that worth had to be earned or proved started to die. And that being didn't have to be one thing. I was good in business, but I didn't want that to be the story of my life, the definition of me. I didn't want to be one thing. But yet we're told, find that one thing, commit to that one thing, and be that one thing for the rest of your life. Ooh, do I have to do that? Because I don't want to do that. And I traveled. I went to Brazil, and I hiked and trekked through the Amazon, and I realized what it was like to be a guest of nature, and how amazing that felt. I went to Tanzania and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and saw the power and the courage it takes to do those things. I floated on the island of Zanzibar at the intersection of all these different cultures and saw what a melting pot, what a mixing creates, and how magical it felt. I went to Cape Town and found a whole new family and a group of friends. What began as 1 week turned into 3 months of kinship, of connection. I went to Nepal and India. And I knew my gathering season was coming to an end when I was in Oman. I was on the Arabian Sea under a full moon night. It is one of the primary birthing grounds of giant sea turtles. And there we were with a group of scientists with red flashlights hiding behind a dune. And in the distance, you'd see this huge, massive sea turtle floating, gracefully swimming on the waves. And then all of a sudden they would land onto Earth and then ever so slowly move. And they would come up. I remember watching this one in particular. She came up right in front of us and turned her hind flipper, starting to kick out the sand from behind her. The eggs falling in, and there we were, the scientists shone a red flashlight behind her. And I'm watching this beautiful, beautiful creature lay these eggs, and in the distance, new hatchlings were emerging from the sand, coming through, taking their first breaths, and then moving towards the ocean. And there I was standing in between the two, the hatchlings coming out and the eggs going in. And I was like, damn, I am done. I literally could not have taken any more in. I felt blessed by it. I felt in love with the world. I felt the world loved me. And I knew my gathering season was coming to a close. And I moved back to New York. But this couple of things started to take birth, to take root. And the concept that fulfillment was about the inner world as much as it was the outer world. I had started working with a teacher, an amazing man named Ron Baker, who taught me about the inner world, how to start to understand myself, my trauma, my history. And I started to learn, I'm going to say it, ladies and gentlemen, how to love myself. But how to love myself from the inside out. Because I would try to love myself from the outside in, and it's like love, 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 and all of a sudden it switches to judgment, and then what hits your heart is judgment. But I learned how to love myself from the inside out. I knew that worth was like blood. It flowed through me. It flows through us. And that we don't have to prove it or earn it. It is intrinsic to our nature. We have it. It's about what we're going to do with it. How does knowing that change the game? When you know that worth, you're already worthy. You're already perfect. You're already lovable. You're not moving towards those things. I'm no longer moving towards those things. I just am it. Fuck yeah. And that being, I could actually be many things. I never wanted to be one thing. And along this way, I found the artist in me and the healer and the teacher in me. And I started to make art and show it, to be able to tell stories from a different place, to really embody the artist archetype, which is around taking in, receiving inspiration from the world, putting it into your own engine, and then expressing it back out into the world, a complete system of receiving and giving. And in that, I found balance. And the healer and the teacher in me, where I was like, oh my God, what if I could actually show people to operate from this expansive state that you are not bound by the definition of you? And that felt amazing. I took all of that, and it crystallized into this. That when worth is like blood, you are free to be any fucking thing. Imagine that. Know that we are already worthy. I moved back to New York, and then I realized the West was calling me. It was time to go. I needed to be closer to trees. So I found my way out to Portland, to instrument, and then here, in front of you all. And I find myself now on the edge of a new conceptual death. And it's super early, but it's this: that I am my stories. And mind you, I love my stories. I love my experiences. But what I'm starting to feel is that that's not the whole story of me. That it's just an aspect of me. And that I am way more pure potential than I am stories. And so what is being birthed in me is this: that I am greater than my stories. I am more than the sum of my stories. And that somewhere between the storied past and the yearning future, I stand. This is I amness. This is wholeness. And what that means is the decisions of the future are not governed by the decisions of the past. The traumas of the past do not dictate the scope of my future. And in this state, where I am greater than my stories, I feel limitless. My OS feels huge. I feel that life can be anything. I can live anywhere, be anything, try anything, love who I want, love as many as I want, to feel connected to the natural world, to take care of it, to take care of you, to have you take care of me. I like the state of limitlessness. So, shall we imagine death? I'd love to lead you all through, if you're willing, a little guided visualization. In a lot of the workshops that I teach, being able to kind of close your eyes and feel inside of your body is really important. And so if you're willing, if you want to play, that would be great. So, get comfortable. And let's take one deep breath. Inhale. And then exhale. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And just imagine and evaluate the nature of your mind right now, how it feels, what's happening in it. Observe the nature of your heart. Does it feel big and open or tight? And just observe it. Observe the nature of your body, how it feels to be in it, the gift that your body is, and feel the whole system. And imagine a bed. And in that bed, you find yourself laying there, blankets tucked right underneath your chin. It is your deathbed, and it is tomorrow. And you lay there, feeling the life force leave you. And in front of you, a TV screen begins to lower down. Images flicker. And they are your fondest memories of life to date. What do you see? The moments of pure joy. What does your heart tell you? What do you see? Take note of it. To the right of you, another TV screen descends. Images flickering. They are your sad regrets, the unfulfilled dreams, the unvisited places, the undone. What do you see? What does your heart tell you? That you are ready to do. Take note of it. And if you're ready, come back into the room. Underneath your chairs, or some of your chairs, are a sheet. For you to write down anything that you saw. If you don't have one, I apologize. We ran out. But take note What did you see in the fond memories? And if you didn't see very much right now, no big deal. Try it again when you're home. The fond memories give you a little bit of a clue about what you want more of. What did you see in the sad regrets? And when you do a little bit of work around this, you will unearth a couple of belief systems that are preventing you from doing those things. And you'll know when you're ready to murder them. Because they have to die so that you can go do that thing. So to understand that death is the first step in living life on your terms. And after death, you're going to find yourself in the liminal phase. The death of one belief system and the new really big one has yet to show up. And you're going to be like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But the beauty is you're already moving forward. You're in the next phase. So keep going, keep exploring, keep trying, keep experimenting. And as you do, your OS is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and wider. And people are going to be like, damn, you look different. Because you will. Your eyes will glimmer in a different way. Your heart will open in a different way. How you encounter people will feel different. And in all of that, you'll find the birth of an idea that you're going to be like, damn, amazing. And then once you have that, you got to go live it. You got to take that show on the road. You have to integrate it. Integrating season. So, to set yourself free, to return to your factory settings, your original state, some of the things that you've written down that you have connected to have to die to make room for life. Thank you.